is out. I'm your host, Mike. Well, thanks for watching, guys. If you're enjoying, please subscribe, rate, and review on our iTunes, Spotify, or iHeartRadio. Check out our Process to Perform page on YouTube. If you want to check out these videos. And as always, we are sponsored by the Believe Network. I know I got to say where I'm from. I'm Mike60 at Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram. I think it's fantastic. What I'm really excited about is betting money on sports. And I can do that with BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games into spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of the $200,000 prize. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in the game of blackjack or poker or unwind one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get on the action. Bet online where the game starts. So the Packers travel to Los Angeles to face the 1-3 Rams. They're betting favorites. I think they're favored by 3. And the question really is, do we need to spot Matthew Stafford 28 points, or can we just go in and start fast against this team that will look on tape is quite frankly not a very good team? And bottom line, the Packers should win this game. The Rams are out. Cooper Kupp. Puka Nacua is, I think, most likely not going to play. They said he's maybe for week 5. Defensively, Aaron Donald is no longer there. They do not have a game plan guy on defense. Now, on defense, they have drafted some dudes the last couple of years. I like a handful of guys. We'll talk about them later. But they are I think they're 31st in the league. Not a very good team defensively. But really, when you talk about the Rams, who you talk about? 2 guys. Sean McVay, who's an offensive genius, and it's kind of fun. It's fun to watch what they're doing right now, kind of bringing it back old school. And then you talk about Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is a great player. He is still a great. There's nobody that's throwing the football, just straight throwing the football as well as he has. He's just a phenomenal talent. What you see now when you look at their offense is because they're out these 2 guys, and they've been doing this for the last couple of years. I mean, Sean McVay does such a good job of using motion to create space, and he's still doing that. But what you notice now is they're getting into these heavier packages. They're going under center, and they're trying to just make up for the fact they don't have their 2 star guys. They're trying to protect some of the people up front. They're doing a lot of under center play action pass. And it looks a lot like 1990s, early 2000s NFL football with some extra motion. Now, why they're doing things and how to attack these NFL defenses, like they're doing it for maybe a different purpose than they did back then, because certainly the personnel is different. But it's going to be interesting. Now, with the Packers going to get a Valentine back, I think Jordan Morgan's going to play. I don't know if he'll actually play. We talked about that last week. You think that at this point, Sean Ryan probably just stays in the game. I'm sure I'm wrong on that as far as what they're going to do, but that's what I would recommend. Alexander looks like he's still going to be out. Obviously, Christian Watson's going to be a little bit longer of a injury delay. But listen, if you're going to not have Jared Alexander in particular, I mean, listen, Christian Watson, you don't like to see guys hurt, but our wide receiver room is as deep as they come as far as the Packers facility. So if you're going to lose a guy, even if it's a guy that's as valuable as Christian Watson, that's probably the room you want to lose him in. And when you think about Valentine getting back, listen, I think there's a lot of you like our safety situation, especially with the young guys coming up and bringing in McKinney. What you don't like necessarily right now is John Alexander's our premier guy. Stokes has still a lot of questions to answer as far as he can be a long-term solution. Is he going to continue to evolve and improve his play coming off of last season? So Valentine's there. Thank God they don't have both of their kind of studs, but you'll watch Matthew Stafford's going to dish and deal to whoever's in the game. And I think that is, regardless of who's starting at wide receiver, that's going to be a difficult task. Now, let's just talk about the Rams defense. They're in the basement right now of the National Football League. They're giving up nearly 29 points a game, I think 28.8, and 385 yards per game. So I think it's both good for 31st in the league. You can see on their depth chart, they've drafted some young guys, and they're going to give the guys a chance to play. The Rams are giving up 5 yards, really giving up for a season right now. They're giving up 5 yards to carry, 165 yards per game on the ground. And I think part of that's just what the new NFL is. But man, when I say that out loud, like I remember back in the day, if you got 5 yards a game, I mean, you were the best thing since sliced bread. And so to give that up on the regular is just to give up 165 yards a game on the regular is just insane to me. I know it's only week 5, but good lord. They have a couple guys that really like our defense. Last year they drafted Byron Young, really like him, and then they drafted Jared Verse, the kid out of Florida State. Both really, really interesting players. You're going to see that those particular matchups, not really necessarily against our tackles, but if we're going to play tight ends in this game, based on what we've seen recently, particularly from our backup tight ends, those could be some difficult matchups for us. Those guys are very physical players. They're athletic. I think they're pretty heady. But bottom line, the Rams are giving up the bag on defense, man. It's the Packers need to capitalize on this generosity because this is one of those games where your expectation should be that you're scoring somewhere around 30 points. Let's watch a little tape on these guys. So matchup alert for me, again, 0 and 8. Those are guys to watch on defense. They're going to start out of a base kind of, we'll call it a 3-4, but it's really just a 5-man front. They do a good job, in my opinion, of when you're not in nickel, they'll get you and even when you're in nickel, they'll get a 5-man front. And they really want to get one-on-one matchups so they can see if they can win at any particular weak spot on your offensive line in the pass game. But we'll see here. They're going to run this kick play. I think I showed this from both sides. It's an old school play. Basically, everybody comes down and they're just waiting for that safety that corner who's sitting on the overhang. We'll see it from the side. Or maybe we won't see it from the sideline copy. Did I not put it in there? Gosh darn, I'm stupid. So the point of this kick play is you bring everybody down. You can see the Bears. And the Bears are going to run a little bit different than everybody else right now, just given who they have at quarterback and trying to protect that guy. But they did win the game last week. So they go 2 tight ends here. And really, the kick play is just designed to force the corner who's still off the screen to come down and make a play at the line of scrimmage. And the thought process is they're never going to, most of these guys, unless you're, Jalen Ramsey did this, Richard Sherman did this, but close down, get to the line of scrimmage, near hit forward, and really make that tackle for a 1-yard gain and not a 5 to 10-yard gain. So you can do this against these guys. What you find against all teams, where the Rams are included in this, is motion and all this disruption really creates some softness in their defense, and they'll back up. Like their first instinct is to go backwards. So now I had to put this in here. So if anybody in Green Bay, if this looks familiar, it should, because we ran this formation 16 times a game one year. This is a 96 power load out of green right tight. So we got Bubba, we got the big man Kevin Berry, we got Boogie and Amon in the backfield, and the Bears should be banned for running this play, man. First of all, they suck at it, and second of all, man, this is our play. This is an absolute nonsense. So you're going to see the guard pull, you're going to see the fullback, and you see what I think this is Young on that side. He just decides enough is enough and just takes this tight end and causes a complete car accident. And this is what I like about these guys. They're just physical. They're not messing around. And they end up turning this into a 1-yard gain. Now, we start out in a tight bunch look, and all they have is 14 is the old tight end. He's actually the old tight end for LA. What's his name? Doesn't matter. But so they're 11 personnel. So look at the spread and the distribution of play in the spacing when you go to 11 personnel, or you spread everything out, even in a gun look. So you got that tight end a little bit wider. So you got him a yard off the tackle on our left, the offense's right side. Look what it does to the spacing of those outside backers. I mean, you cannot find an easier box to run in. So they run the draw. 51 actually makes a nice play here. But you can see why they're giving up 5 yards just from a gap scheme perspective. Now, I'll say this. I really like the way they play their 3-man line. I'll show you here. They do a good job, and the Packers are going to have to do, I think, a better job. Now, this is a 51 front, and they'll do this out of nickel when they want to stop the run. I think this is a better defense for them because of this. They do a good job on these doubles, and this is a double pull play. I'm showing you the wrong play for the point I'm trying to make. So let's start that over. So on the 51 front, one thing they do, these young guys, they can take advantage of kind of their aggressiveness, right? So this is an option read by Caleb Williams. Going to pull the backside guard and backside tackle, handoff, and if the defensive end goes with a running back, it's free reign. And really, he shouldn't be chasing. because everybody and their mother's over on the other side of the football waiting for this play to play out. And Caleb Williams can run for a quick 5-7 yards. Now this is what you like. So 27 is Tre'Davious White. He came from Buffalo, good football player. When you can motion to a lot of ISO looks, and all I mean by that is their motion when they go away from like a double to a trips look, at least against these guys. And you got to remember that the wide receiver core for the Chicago Bears is very good, and they would try to isolate White either on either one of their star receivers, and so you can pick up some of this stuff and understand they're going to run zone to one side, they're going to run man and match on the other, and really take advantage of the one-on-one situations. Obviously, right here, Caleb Williams is going to throw a lot of check downs. They've got some bracket cover top, but you're going to get singled up on the outside. Opportunities abound for our guys. This is an interesting play. So numbers, look for this early. So they go motion, and then they're motioning to empty. So what's that trigger? So for a lot of teams, that triggers that linebacker all of a sudden is going to trigger and make a rush for it. Now this is kind of like a shovel pass play, excuse me, that you don't see very often. So you don't blame this guy. He looks like Keystone Cops a little bit when he tries to go through. But look for this early. So they're trips, and they go from the backside. So they really had a two receiver side on the top of the field, because you count that running back out of the backfield. So he motions over, and they go quads to one side, empty backs. So they send the linebacker, but just look at the numbers out here to the bottom of the screen before they move. That leaves 3 players, including, and one of them is the outside linebacker, for 4 receivers. So impossible situation right there. Look for the Green Bay Packers to run that formation and get something different out of this play. Very easy run a swing pass or run a quick screen there. Nice shovel here, though. Here. Pre-snap reads. Why am I showing this? So they can tell already that this linebacker has stepped out an extra step, meaning that he's going to go man on this tight end. And this is what's important with having, versus Caleb Williams, having Jordan Love in the backfield. You got to be able to make this pre-snap read. Now, I think I showed the ends of this. Maybe I don't, but that linebacker steps out an extra step to guard that tight end. That tells you that he's going to be matched up against that player. And they're back as they run the wheel here. So they go flat to wheel. Now, he doesn't throw this ball, but look how open the tight end is at the bottom of the screen. Now, unfortunately, I think they give up the sack here. And this is what you like to see, I think, if you're a Rams fan, is this 5 down look. Like this is, there's 2 ways to look at this. If you think you have a soft spot with the offensive line, the Rams, this is not a sustainable route for you. In other words, just lining up 5 and going 5 down, because oftentimes when you go 5 down, the defensive line, only 1 or 2 guys has a 2-way go. A lot of guys just want to stay in their lane at this point. So, maybe that nose tackle has a 2-way go on the center, and certainly maybe the 3 techniques have a 2-way. But if you start rushing, C gap, B gap, either A, C gap, B gap again on the other side, or B gap, C gap on the other side, the rushes kind of become robotic because you don't have as much space. It turns into a lot of bull rushing, collapse in pockets. So it gives you a little more time. Now, if you don't, on the other hand, if you feel like you have a matchup issue, which I just don't think they do based on their 2 best players right now on the outside, are probably not going to beat our tackles, then you got to feel pretty good if you're Jordan Love and the Packers that if they're going to rush 5 and drop 6, that's a much better situation for you. Having said that, they obviously get in here late on the guard, but that's because I think a lot of that's because Caleb Williams had the wheel right open on the left and he didn't even look at it. So this is what I was going to show before, and I screwed up. The double teams on their down linemen don't get a lot of vertical movement. In other words, I think they do a really good job going back here. So they're in their 51 here. That's out of a base with 2 4 eyes. And you just see they do a really nice job here of giving those linebackers room to maneuver. So nobody's coming up on those linebackers, and there's space between the linebackers and the defensive tackles because those guys really aren't getting moved off the ball, particularly the guy on the backside on the single block. So it just gives you opportunities to swarm, right? And you can attack at the line of scrimmage. So I think that's something that they do well. You want to get, in my opinion, you want to get them in that 51, that look or that 3-4 look and run a ton of like your gap stuff. But if you're trying to get those doubles, I think those guys are pretty good at handling the double teams. That you might be able to get them more horizontal and make some more cuts with Josh Jacobs, but just straight, medium zone double team looks, I think I think that's what they're very good at. So they bring 5. They got problems with space here with their deep drops. You see that safety's already 15 yards deep and backing up and up and up. So they run the screen game here. And, certainly we're a good screen team. Their linemen don't really even get up before the back. It's just a question of getting those guys out of the way. So I like a lot of the things they do. And I like a lot of their players. I just don't know that they have enough. I don't think they have enough size inside to stop the run. I think if they go to that 51, you start running your pin and pulls and your gap stuff, that we're actually good at. I think that holds up pretty well. I think the only real question mark in the game is how are you going to handle those 2 outside linebackers? If you're going to play with tight ends, how are you going to handle those outside linebackers? I'm sure LaFleur will have an answer for that, certainly. But, everything else you kind of think is over. Travis White is a good player, but if they're going to match him singled on guys and you're going to have a 5-man rush that's just going to pressure the pocket, I just don't know if that's a good answer for the Rams. Their safeties play deep. When you motion, you get space. I mean, there's just a lot of things. They had a disruptor. It's like you have a generational talent at 3 technique forever, and you have this disruptor that really erases a lot of problems. And then all of a sudden, I think you use your defensive coordinator to a head coaching job. If I'm right, that was Raheem Morris. And, before you know it, it's like, oh, Aaron's gone too. Like, I just remember when John Randall left the Vikings, even though he had Hovan, it's not quite the same. It's different. So, offensively, so Stafford is, we talked about, he's still an elite guy. Honestly, this offensive line is much better than it was a couple of years ago. It's particularly running the football. And I'm going to show some, I'll show you what I mean by that because they're not particularly good in yards per carry, but I can explain why. I think, Kyron Williams is a really good young running back. I think he's a tough tackle. And look, Sean McVay, we talked about it a little bit before, like he's going old school right now with some of the formations, some of the personnel agreements. You used to, you remember back 4 or 5 years ago, and they're running like their 2x2s and everything's in tight, and they're trying to expand and get all that grass. And I mean, they still do a lot of that stuff, but it's out of gun. You're running a lot of 11 personnel. And then they start motioning in. They're one of the first groups that started using the wide receivers. Is Lazard blocking. They were doing that with Cup. They were doing that with Puka last year. Now they're doing a lot of under center play action pass. They're doing a lot of under center run game, and they're using personnel groups. I think it's just based out of necessity. Their 2 best receivers are out. Stafford's not really. That kind of means Stafford's out on not 1 but 2 safety valves as well. So what does that translate to? Well, that translates to if he's in gun and it's just free release and a press release, then he's holding the ball for longer. He maybe doesn't have the trust in some of these guys. Now he's still getting chunk plays 25 yards on the field on deep digs and daggers, but he forced a pick last week that you just don't see happening with Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp in the game. Like you just don't see them getting pushed out of bounds. It's just things change when you don't have your top guys. So they're the middle of the team road from an offensive standpoint. I think they average 18.8 yards a game. That's like 22nd in the league. I think they average under 4 yards, so 3.7 yards a carry, which is good for like 28. So, I said their offensive line is good at rushing, but because of that play action pass, because of the 12 and the 21 personnel, they're forcing their tight ends and their wide receivers to kind of be lead blockers in some situations, and they're just not up to standing. They're not quite as good as the guys that we're replacing. Now, Puka Nacua was really good at that last year at the wide receiver position. These guys aren't bad, but the tight end position in particular, they can get bullied a little bit. So we have to be able to take advantage of those matchups. Certainly, if you look at who we have on the edges, with Sean Gary and Preston Smith in the run game in particular, you've got to feel really good about those matchups. But inside, I'll show a couple of like their double teams are very solid. I don't know if they're the most physical bunch in the group, but they're very well coached and they have great technique. So if it was me, I would spread the. I would get rid of all the tight ends. I always say if you can't dance, don't come to the party. If it was me, I would get rid of the tight ends. I'd move them out. I'd go 11 personnel. I'd go, even 10 personnel. Spread this team out and attack because Jared Alexander's not going to be in the game, and we really don't need guys who can't do a great job in the run game in their blocking. But the big thing you see from Sean McVay, not the under center stuff notwithstanding, is the use of motion to increase space for receivers to run on. It's just he's such a master at, they would say fighting for every blade of grass. So this is, I think, the first play of their offensive game last week. So they go motion back, they run the lead with the tight end, really the split flow action. But I just want to show you these double teams. Like, it's not the most physical game in the world, but these guys do a really nice job. And this is a situation, again, where you just have to be fundamentally sound. You got two doubles up to the backer, and you're really trying to get hip to hip. Back motion. So, I mean, that's, if you're drawing up a clinic tape, now you see the left tackle lost to his guy inside, of course. Like I said, it's not perfect, but you look at those other four guys, and this is actually clinic tape of what you want to get to. Get you a 5-yard gain. Go again. Just a well-coached team. So you see 77 here. 3 techniques going to spike. They have what we call B blocks, backside B block. 3 techniques going to spike. He immediately steps back and slams the door shut on the defensive end, which opens the lane up for Kyron Williams here. So back, great job. Just taking a little bit off for that tight end, and then just shutting the door on the linebacker. I mean, I know that doesn't look like much. That's a very difficult thing to execute. That's a heads-up play. That means you've watched tape. That means you're very, very well coached. And that's just a very fundamentally sound way to operate. And especially when you can always snap back and help the tight ends. We're going to struggle against good defensive ends anyways. No problems. So we go under center again. We go motion. And this is, McVay's gone retro, man. This is literally looks out of 1998, 2002. Just, this is not what you expect from the LA Rams. And what they've done with all that under center and all the handoffs and everything that they're, get the linebackers' eyes so that you don't turn and run and drop to their spots. And so at this stage, you've got people in windows that Stafford can throw an in the window on the damn field. So this is just easy toss and catch for him. All the windows are open. The depth, when we'll show the depth in the on the field view between the safeties and the linebackers at some stages, it's remarkable. And remember, the Bears are quite good at defense. Now, using motion to create space. So we come across in motion, and you see that the corner's pressed up here. Bring him across. All of a sudden, we switch defenses. So now he gets a free release. And the free release just allows you to do speed cuts. And when you're doing speed cuts in the National Football League on a guy who's playing 5-10 yards off you, like you're open. Like if you have a good quarterback, you're open every time. Like the defense can't play. It's almost an impossible ask with a good quarterback to stand 8 to 10 yards off the field and off the line of scrimmage, give the wide receiver a free release, anybody with speed, and be able to make a speed cut on an in or a dagger route. Like it's just impossible to stop that. So this QB seeing everything. So right now, inside leverage, they've got their 5 up on the line of scrimmage. He sees the slot defender outside, and he also sees it down here. They've got nobody for 10 yards. Now they're gonna zone blitz this, and they're gonna drop the backside. But Stafford already knows. Up top, they're not pressing up 2 guys like that because they'll get picked. So one guy's coming. He knows that. So he's already got his eyes on the backside dropper. They know they're going to play soft on the backside on the outside, which is going to give you that really either window. And so it's the exact same thing we just talked about. And this is just QB recognition at a masterclass level. I'll show it one more time. When you walk up top side, side by side here in the corner. Stafford knows that that guy's coming, which means they're probably running a zone blitz. Their backside on the zone blitz. What does that mean for the backside corner? He's going to be off. Windows are open. Just knowing where to go with the ball before the ball snapped. Huge weapon in the run game. So under center, motion to trips. And again, you're just creating space. Up top, that brings the corner from off. So now he's hipped off. He's going to be 10 yards at the snap, 8 yards at the snap. So now they're in the tight end screen. And all of a sudden, usually having to deal with a linebacker in this situation if they stay. You now have to deal with a corner who's playing off. And we already saw that you can run that kick off them because they play off the line of scrimmage. They're not big on tackling. So what do we do to attack that? Well, we run the kick play. We attack those sides. But then we attack with the screen game. Because all we have to do is pin that defensive tackle, and we've got two guys out now. Kid makes a great play, actually. So Matthew Stafford is not a mobile quarterback. Statue's probably maybe not fair, at least 10 years ago, but he's been around for a while. So what does that mean? You have to start, and then for the Green Bay Packers, this is what they have to start. They got to start winning inside. All right, I think Devontae White has done a relatively good job, but we got to get a little bit more in the defensive tackle position as far as pocket pressure. If you have a single block, you have to win your single block. You see it on the right guard here. I don't think that the Chicago Bears defensive tackles are world beaters by any stretch of the imagination. So there's no reason that can't happen with us. I think I put this play in. I put this play because I just love that they do this, man. This has to be a point of pride. So this was the Nakua last year. This guy Jordan, what's that? I forgot his last name, but he leads up. He becomes the lead blocker here. And if you're the safety for the Bears who's sitting in the box here, man, like this has to be lights out. And he does a decent job, but like I just love that they do this. I love when Lazard did it. Like it just endears you to the football team if you're a wide receiver and come in and block that safety. He does a pretty nice job there. That has to be a point of pride, I think, for the Green Bay Packers. If you see that insert block, man, we have to blow that up, arm free, and we have to make that tackle on Kyron Williams. 2-yard gain. So same idea here. You come from motion. Corner starts up. Ends up back. We got a free release with a 10-yard head start. Turns his back. So now he's got the 15-yard out. Easy pitch and catch. And this is how they're creating space for these guys who are not necessarily name brand wide receivers. All good players, though. All good players. So we go gun, and this is one where you're missing your guys, right? Like there's no way that Nakua and Cup put him in a situation where the guys even if he caught the ball, he's still gone out of bounds. But this ends up being a pick, and really a bad pick for a guy like Stafford. So these are the plays that sometimes with these offensive coordinators, these geniuses, like. Some of this stuff only works on paper, man. Like you can. I think this is Montez Sweat down here versus the tight end, and like just because you can draw a line between those two people doesn't mean that he can actually block them. And it's like he might as well just be turning a fan on medium and trying to slow him down with that. I love this part here though. So hey, what if we send Jordan over too, right? So. Hey, he's a lead blocker in our run game. Why don't we come over here and have him stop Sweat? He might as well be paper mache right here. I think he just plays two-hand tag. I mean, good Lord. Sack, fumble. And so that stuff is happening. One, because he's not a very mobile quarterback. But two, like some of the stuff they have him doing is not necessarily fundamentally sound. But under center again, kind of evolving with what they have personnel-wise. He's got plenty of time. And then you just have these chunk plays because the space and separation between the second and third levels of this defense, I mean, there's just a massive amount of space to throw to whoever you want in the middle. Somehow I managed to get the wrong button there, boys. Here we go. Yeah, so I think this is kind of the key to the game is do you feel comfortable? Do you feel comfortable with the idea that they're going to be methodical? Kieran Williams run the ball down the field 3.7 yards a carry right now. Or are they going to have to make a lot of chunk plays? Certainly with Alexander out, how are you going to run your defense? Do you want to try to take somebody out of their offense? Can you even do that with all the motion they have? If we are sound in tackling, which I think we've improved on, and we just have great communication on some of this motion stuff, and really just trying not to move. I mean, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you're just doing this and rocking and rolling all the time, especially at the corner position, like you change your mentality. So if I'm up and I'm 2 yards off the line of scrimmage, like I'm hyper aware of some things, right? If I drop back now and I'm 8 to 10 yards off, this guy's coming to motion. Now he's sprinting at me full speed. Like my demeanor, everything changes. So you want to kind of be the same mindset if you can. I mean, this is part of the reason that you try to disrupt this with motion, but you want to be the same guy throughout that play if you can. And it's not like you can sit there and like play sticks or anything, but what you want to be able to do is put yourself in a situation pre-snap where you're just super confident in what your responsibilities are. And if they motion, do I need to maybe I got to bump out because it's zone, or maybe I got to chase if it's man. But do I have to change depths too? Because how does that affect my run game fits and all of that? Like everything changes when you have to change vertically. So that's one of the things that the Packers can look to when the Rams are trying to exploit this particular part of their defense. And can we just try to stay with a better vertical presence on the field of play before the snap? That was a mouthful. Let's get some listener questions. I only have a couple here. Thanks again for you guys are writing in. So, so basically, every player on the D line has demonstrated a level of play they haven't met on the field so far. Concerned about the dip or optimism because they've shown it before. That's a great question. So new defense. What has been obviously, some of the things that have been kind of interesting is there's obviously an outcome production that you have to talk about with Rashawn Gary. You have to talk about a little bit with Kenny, but there's also just a way that you go about business. The process is much more important because that's kind of more definite over the long haul. And obviously new defense, so different mindset. And you saw early on, especially you think about Kenny with his upfield charges, a lot of them are very good. A handful of them maybe aren't because he gets knocked out of position because he's different, a little bit different stance, a little bit different mindset. So your base gets a little bit narrow, so it's easier to move horizontally. So all these things are a function of just this new defense being used to it. And so you have to kind of get hip with that and understand how to play full speed in that defense and play automatic so you can be a read and react athlete. Then you look outside at Rashawn, hand in the ground a little bit more, although he's going more back into some 2 points. So that should have improved his get off and his leverage. But he wants to be an outside rusher. He wants to rush vertical. He wants to come back underneath late. He doesn't want to be an angle guy. He doesn't. He's just got a way that he thinks he wants to go about business. And I don't know. I talked about this on Andy Herman's show. I just think that if I'm scouting him, or if I'm a right tackle or trying to prepare that right tackle for him, my recommendation is very simple. You don't need to ever change your set for this guy. Just get vertical, get to your spot, stay square, and he's going to do the same thing every time. He's got maybe one or two different hand moves, but they don't affect you because he's not affecting your speed of play. He's not affecting your leverage. So if he wants to get better at that, then you need to change the angle of departure. You have to change the angle that you're coming into contact with. You have to make that offensive lineman be uncomfortable and get out of his rhythm. Until he does that, it doesn't really matter about what defense we're running, what stance you're in. It's just like a mindset thing. We have to be willing to like assess what's going on and see if we can do a bit better job. Like, there was a play last week where I think it was Darnold's first scramble, and both defensive ends are like 3 yards above Darnold. And the space that opens up when you don't press the pocket at the level, when you don't collapse the pocket at the level, the space that opens up for a quarterback of Sam Darnold's blazing speed and stature to run with, it's just too much to overcome. Like, your linebackers have, responsibilities outside of spine. So it's just a situation where we've talked about it, I think, ad nauseum for the last couple of years, but guys are still coaching that, and therefore players are still doing it. Not much else to be said. Would you put Jordan Morgan at left tackle in place of penalty-prone Rasheed Walker? I'll tell you, first of all, sometimes I screw up Rasheed Walker's name and say Rasheed Wallace. Is that like a Quentin Tarantino character? Or is that Rasheed Wallace from the Detroit Bad Boy Pistons? I don't know which one I'm referencing, but I apologize to Rasheed Walker. The injury stuff, the penalty stuff, a lot of that is circumstantial. A lot of that is guys he thinks it's outside run, guys go back inside. Obviously, there's some things you need to improve on from hands in the face and whatnot. But the short answer to that is absolutely not. I wouldn't switch out Jordan Morgan for Sean Rhyan right now, and I don't think Sean Rhyan's playing lights out by any means. But I certainly think that it's better to at this stage, it's better to build continuity in the run game and improve that individual player. Now, he might not get that. Jordan Morgan might get that benefit of the doubt because he's a first-round draft pick, and they have to develop him. Like, it's one of the Ron Wolf rules is like you don't admit defeat on first-round draft picks. Not that they should by any means with him, but I'm saying that they're going to get kind of the benefit of the doubt. They're going to get more opportunities just because of where they were drafted. But I certainly don't. It would never be a left tackle. Let's just go last one here. This guy asks, not Packers later, how often do you go back to California? I went back, as in I moved back there probably 7 times in my life. If I was to guess, 6 or 7 times. We're in Germany right now. I don't see myself going back to California anytime soon, other than for vacation. But yeah, it's California's obviously I grew up there, went to high school there, wife's from there. But we grew up in a small mountain town, Rimble World High School, Lake Arrowhead, California, Redden Springs, Big Bear, Crestline. And I think back in the day, it had like one stoplight. It was a mountain town. It was it's a resort community, right? People are trying to ski. Guys come up to ski in the wintertime and water ski in the summertime. So the economy's kind of built and based around that. Really great place to grow up. But having said that, like I think I can count on one hand the amount of people I know that are still up there, including the head coach of the Rim Scots, Joe Girardo, who was one of my best friends in high school. But yeah, I don't spend too much time there anymore. So listen, guys, I don't know. Let me say this: the Packers. If this isn't a get right game, I mean this should be. And I know guys, but this should be. This is the 3-point game is justified. We should win this football game. And listen, hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe, rate, review us on the Process Reform channel. This is Black Friday. I'm your host, Mike Wahle. Find me at Mike Wahle68 on Twitter, Process Reform, Instagram. Thanks for watching, guys.